Welcome back to SoulBack. This is the R&B podcast. Kyle here back with Tom and Ed, and today is a very exciting day. We will be talking about the versus battle between Keisha Cole and one Ashanti Douglas. Who is ready for this conversation?
We will absolutely not be talking about that. That would be a very short conversation.
Can I actually let you guys know this is an important anniversary? 5 years.
5 years?
Kyle came to visit me in New York 5 years ago, and for some apparent reason, we decided to have Hennessy and Hypnotic mixed together, aka the Incredible Hulk. We both almost died that night.
Yeah.
So that's an important milestone in our friendship of I Got Soul.
Henny and Hippo. Henny and Hypno. That is such a 2004 drink. I'm all for it.
We were on one that night.
Oh, I bet.
Singing Donell Jones.
Oh,
and Glenn Lewis, apparently.
Yeah.
That is where I don't want to be.
Anyway.
Yeah. Today we're actually talking about 1999 R&B. We took a little break from the revisiting of years, but we're back at it, and I'm really excited about this one here, guys. As I did my collage like I normally did, a lot of great albums this year.
Man, an absolutely great year. We're getting into like the sweet spot of my favorite years of my adult life. 97, 98, 99, these are like my favorite years, and the music that we're going to talk about today are like some of my favorite memories. I am too hyped. I'm going to be on my stand today.
It's crazy. I was 16, I think, in 1999. And looking back at some of these albums, I really have more of an appreciation for them now, especially lyrically, that I can relate to them more. So definitely a great year. And as I was talking to Ed before we started, an even better year for hip-hop, believe it or not. But That's another story to another podcast.
Yeah, y'all go over to Soul and Stereo. We'll talk about that there. But yeah, there's so much we took for granted, and I'm sure everybody in the comments can agree. We took for granted this great year. And looking back in 2020, I'm currently working on my top 50 list, and I'm struggling. And then we go to 99, and it's just like plentiful hits. So what a time.
Kyle, I mean, how old even were you in 99? You're the baby of this group.
Yeah, I was 9 years old. And I mean, there are a couple of projects that I do vividly remember, like the Destiny's Child project, but I got to be honest, some of these albums I had to learn and discover later on in life when I really fell in love with R&B. But when I look back at this year, a lot of great albums, like I said, and even a lot of gems that we'll talk about later. But let's get started here. I don't even really know where to begin with this, but I guess we'll talk about the males, since the males had some very, very good albums. Tom, I'm going to throw this to you because this is your guy.
Yep.
Donell Jones.
Darnell, I knew it.
Where I Want to Be, the second album. People love this. What's up?
I thought you were going to go to Chico DeBarge for my guy, but it was Donell. I'll take that one too.
Chico is your guy too, but Donell, let's start with him, because didn't he just catch some flack recently, Ed, from Twitter fans who claim that Where I Want to Be is toxic?
God. Player, I cannot stand how Twitter just like discovers stuff, and it's like, we need to be mad about this. We've been talking about Donell in that song for 30 years. Catch up, player. But yes, if you actually listen to Where I Want to Be, it's actually quite problematic. But we knew this. We still love the song. We didn't have think pieces to write because we were too busy listening to hits. We weren't too busy complaining on Twitter. We had better stuff to do. But yeah, I love this album, and that song is one that defines the era for me.
Well, I can't forget this episode we had the podcast a few years ago, Ed. And we joined in your love letters type feature, and I picked out a few songs, and you responded. And one of the songs you responded to was Where I Want to Be, of the perspective of you giving advice on that situation. That was a fun one.
I totally forgot about that. We need to bring that back.
Yes, yeah, I agree. But back to this album, guys. I love this album front to back. Definitely a classic. Put Donell on the map. And I told him when we interviewed him, I remember in 99 hearing dudes singing, blasting Where I Want to Be, the single from their car. Like, you don't really hear that nowadays, that type of thing. Dudes being vulnerable and blasting slower music. So You Know What's Up was actually my favorite. You know, that's such a jam to me. Still rock it.
Yep.
There's so many good ones, though. I just love this album, too.
I mean, you got No Interruptions. You got Shorty Got Her Eyes on Me. What an album that is. And I don't think we give enough love to the wonderful Left Eye who did her thing on the remix.
Yeah.
I love. This is back in the day where like you weren't sure if you were listening to the remix or the original version until she popped into it. You're like, okay, we're on the remix today. So
Yeah.
it's always something to get hype about.
Didn't Anthony Hamilton write You Know What's Up?
He partially contributed writing to it, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was
You
crazy.
said I learned something today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's talk about some other albums that came out here. Tom, we'll get to Chico DeBarge in a sec, but I got to talk about Brian McKnight. This is like my mom's favorite male R&B singer of all time, and was when Brian McKnight was at his absolute peak. You have Back at One, you have 6812, which is still one of the saddest songs of all time. What do you guys remember about Brian McKnight during this era? Because he was at the top of his game then, and he still is. But during that era, 99, you couldn't compare anyone to Brian McKnight. He was huge.
This, to me, is like peak Brian McKnight. I think that when I think of Brian and like when I think of all the hits, it's always from this era. It's like 99 going into 2000. I mean, obviously had the big career before, but I just feel like when it comes to exposure and just being on a roll, to me, this is the era of Brian McKnight that defines his career for me.
I love the song "Stay" on this album, and yeah, you're right, Ed. This is right in his sweet spot. And if you think about it, to me, he hasn't really deviated too far from his blueprint as he's moved forward. I mean, especially in the later years, it kind of is from the same sound that starts with it, and it's kind of just variations of it, which I can appreciate. So, shout out to Brian McKnight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and shout out to Jonathan, who notes that Brian has no Grammys. This is why I tell y'all, stop worrying about the Grammys. They are not an indicator of our culture. Because if we're waiting on them, I mean, it shows they've been slipping. So Brian deserves all the flowers. That's what this podcast is for.
You know who else doesn't have a Grammy? Music Soul Child, and I believe Keith Sweat doesn't either.
Where is Keith's Grammys? I want to know. Get it right.
So there you go. I'm just saying.
Let's talk about Chico DeBarge, The Game. Didn't he have a Soul Shock and Carlin song on this album?
I haven't checked the credits in a while. Which one is it?
It was that big hit. I don't remember the title of it, but that album. But that album. Talk about that album, Tom. You love Chico.
Well, he had "Give You What You Want," which was the big hit, and then he also had the song with Joe, "Listen to Your Man." I remember, just being here in New York and always hearing those two songs on the radio. But this album, to me, also had some great album cuts on it as well. I love this album. Chico DeBarge, to me, is one of the most underrated R&B artists you can find. I mean, each of his albums have gems on them. I'm just a big fan. I don't know if you feel the same, Ed, but that's my opinion.
No, I definitely think that he's one of the more underrated ones, and he's one of those artists that I feel like, and we'll talk about this more throughout this episode, but there's just so much talent this year. Every time he came out, he came with quality. But he always seemed to be overshadowed, and the only thing people talked about was like the family drama and some of his past mistakes. I feel like a lot of that kind of overshadowed his talent, even though if you look song for song, the man got some heat.
Mm-hmm. Ed, I got to throw it to you here. I'm going to throw you a bone here because you'll love this one. Can we talk about Silk's 1999 album?
Look at that.
Talk about it. I can talk this whole show about it.
Brian Michael Cox, when I posted this album cover on our Instagram, called it an effing classic.
Listen to Brian Michael Cox. Listen, I love this album. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. We know the singles. We know Meeting in My Bedroom, we know that stuff. But the album cuts just really bring this together. This is, to me, one of the better albums of the year. The best album of their career and one of my favorites of all time. I love this. Shout out to my boys. They killed this album. And we don't talk about how this is actually kind of a comeback album.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Had some management issues, some label issues, even though I really liked the albums that came out during that kind of in-between time. This was their big return. They nailed it. And the telling thing to me is that one of my former mentees posted this in their story. Might have been earlier this week. I'm like, how do you know about this? I know it was an album cut. It wasn't one of the. It was an album cut, and he was like, "Oh, this is my song." And I'm like, "That's why I know you've been raised well, young man."
I'm trying to keep up with these comments, guys. I just want to address a couple. Watch these. Chico DeBarge's song "Any Other Night" featuring Joe from the Have Plenty soundtrack. That song is amazing.
Yes,
good call on that one. Nancy Noir mentioned, how many of you guys bought these CDs from the mail-in order with the little stickers?
Yes, I did. I did.
I wasn't sure what that was. All right.
That's
And
half
then,
my collection back there.
and then we saw Kelly Lou mention this was Silk's best album.
Yep.
John was the best setup man in group history.
I would agree. Whoever said that, shout out. Yes, I would agree.
That's Vocals said that one.
My guy.
We got a couple more albums here from the fellas. Montell Jordan, Get It On Tonight. This song was huge. I remember he performed it at the All-Star Weekend for the NBA. LL Cool J on the remix. And DJ Soulchild, if you're in here somewhere, he's gonna want me to shout this out, that there was actually a version done prior to Montell singing it that's like apparently way better than Montell's version. I don't remember the artist's name, so if someone in the comment wants to confirm that or not.
Horace Brown. Was it Horace?
It was not Horace.
It wasn't Horace?
It was close, but it was not Horace.
It wasn't close.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
But let's talk about Eric Benet. He dropped his album.
Well, can I just say something real quick about Montell? It's so crazy to me how he's almost treated like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
And because and this song was huge, like you said. Let's Get On was huge, and it's almost like people have forgotten that this even occurred. And he's had other great songs as well, but yet he's still treated like a one-hit wonder. It's sad. Kyle, I think, went to his show.
Yep.
And he just performed This Is How We Do It like 5 times in a row, then left the stage or something, I think.
No, what happened was he would start off his show with like 3 variations of This Is How We Do It. He would like incorporate the 50 Cent in game record, This Is How We Do, as part of that. And then he would go through a slew of hits, including this one. And then he would finish it off with This Is How We Do It. But Ed, if we're talking about toxic R&B records, which we don't really do, but this has to be in the conversation.
What, This Is How We Do It?
No, not This Is How We Do It, Get It On Tonight.
Oh, okay, yeah. Get It On Tonight. Again, if you listen to the lyrics, it might be just a little bit problematic. But I'm with Tom. I don't think we give Montell enough credit. I hate when I'm reading these y'all always sharing these hot, it's like the one-hit wonders of the 90s and all these lists. And always Montell is on it. At least Google, y'all. Google. If you Google, you will see this man has plenty of platinum and gold hits. This is one of them. He deserves much more than the big hit. I mean, it's gigantic. It definitely overshadows everything else. But Montell deserves way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kyle, can we just do this before I speak about Eric Benet? Can we just do something?
Yeah.
Can I just name an actual one-hit wonder?
Oh, I'm scared. But yes.
Blue Cantrell. I'm sorry, but Blue Cantrell to me is an actual one-hit wonder.
Didn't she have a second record that was big?
She had a second album and some records, but I don't remember how big they were.
There was one.
Yeah.
If you're listening live, name a Blue Cantrell song. If anyone can name more than one Blue Cantrell, this is no offense. I'm just saying. I think if you look at the hits that artist had.
And honestly, I can name a lot of Blue Cantrell songs, and I'm sure like for instance, my girl Adina Howard, and someone just to me, Shaquille just mentioned Adina. She's another that has one gigantic hit, but she has other songs that charted. So it depends on, do you have one hit or do you have a bunch of charted stuff? Adina, I think, is a one-hit wonder. Blue probably is, but that doesn't mean that's the only song they ever came out with at all. People just don't understand the ramifications of these deals. But Blue's probably on that list.
All right. Let me talk about Eric Benet's A Day in the Life album.
Yes, please do.
Yes, let's get back.
Before we
I love this album. Yeah, Eric Benet is a personal favorite of mine. You know, cool dude, always shows us love. But man, Georgie Porgy with Faith Evans when it came out, love that one, was huge. Spend My Life with You with, to me, obviously timeless wedding song right there. I love the album cut Love of My Own. That's towards the back of the album. Mm-hmm. That one's a real good one too. But this is another one front to back. I enjoy this one. Eric Benet never does us wrong.
That's a great one too. And then we got to talk about Case, of course. He dropped an album, Personal Conversation. He had Beyonce in the music video.
Yes, I just talked about this on Twitter when I was fussing about people being shocked and appalled because apparently it was the first time they heard Where I Want to Be. I was like, wait till they figure out Case got engaged to Beyonce on a music video. But I like this album. Case is on my list of albums to revisit and rank, but this might be pretty high on my list of best Case records of all time.
I agree.
I'd have the number 2 behind his third album, Open Letter.
Yeah.
He doesn't even like his own debut, so it's hard for me to take that one as serious because he doesn't like it himself. So it's hard for me to. But this one I liked a lot. You know, besides Happily Ever After, Faded Pictures with Joe was on here, which is an epic song.
Absolutely.
And then there was a few other album cuts I liked as well. But you know, Case is another one who doesn't let us down.
I agree. I got a couple more albums here. We're not going to really get into it unless you guys have something to add. Tevin Campbell dropped his 4th album, which is, I think, personally an underrated album. We got, Casey and JoJo. That was the one with Tell Me It's Real on it. And I know you love your Casey and JoJo.
They wore that one out, player.
And Blackstreet, finally. I don't see a lot of love for this album by Blackstreet.
No, it had a couple of joints on it, but it definitely wasn't to the level of the previous ones.
I see a couple comments I want to address. Nancy Noir saw Case perform last week. Nancy Noir, I hope you're in good health at this time, and there was masks being worn and social distancing.
Yes.
Jonathan B saw Case at the airport. I feel like Case is the type of guy that you could just see hanging out at the airport, and you just go chill with him and have a beer or something. He's really
I think
cool
so.
dude.
That's our guy.
Yeah. So, and then people wanted us to discuss Ideal. I saw their debut album. I saw that comment earlier. I really didn't have much to chime in on that one, but you guys can certainly.
We will when we get into the rookies. You guys stay tuned for that.
Yep.
We got to stay on schedule, guys, because that's what we do. Let's talk about the females here. We love the ladies, and we love Destiny's Child. Apparently, this Writings on the Wall album, and I'm curious to see what the comments think, but apparently this is like the greatest album of all time.
Says who? Who told you that, Michelle?
She's not even on this album, Ed.
I know, but it was her inspiration. But
Okay.
my point is, I think this is I go back and forth about the best Destiny's Child album. I think it's by far their most important record. I'm still not sure if it's their best. It's quite possibly like their breakthrough, and in some ways, someone that kind of broke them out into kind of the mainstream. But when you talk about important albums of the era, you got to discuss it. I know y'all hit or miss on Beyonce sometimes, but you can't deny the impact this record had.
Man, I was a Destiny's Child fan until I heard Say My Name and Bugaboo, and I knew we'd lost them to pop forever, unfortunately. Because I like Bills, 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 and I like their debut, but sorry.
See, I like Bugaboo better than Bills, Bills, Bills. Bills, Bills, Bills got on my nerves quick.
Really?
Quick. Yes. It got quite annoying. But I was always anti those dudes give me money songs.
But I'll just say My Name. I remember how huge that song was where I was at the time. It was
of course
everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, that song is a classic. But Tom, I want to see your reaction when I say this song, Jumpin', Jumpin'.
Oh, I forgot that song was on there. See, I couldn't get with these
it's
songs.
Up here.
See, I don't know. I just like Bills, Bills, Bills. It felt more of like an R&B record to me. And then these other songs we're naming just didn't feel R&B anymore to me. And it almost felt like they were getting, the crossover was happening, and that's when I gave up on them.
Honestly, to me, Bills, Bills, Bills was the first that felt like the crossover was happening.
You thought so? Really?
Yeah, the debut, if you go back and listen to the debut, it's just so soulful. And I mean, it was one of those ones that just hit me out of nowhere. And we'll get to it in a couple episodes. I love that album. This one, we got really poppy, but I didn't mind it. Like I said, I kind of like Bugaboo in a silly kind of way. Jumpin' was a little too much. I was like, everybody calm down. You sound like kids that ate too much candy. Everybody's just jumping around frantically. So calm down. But the album overall, I think, is really solid.
Jonathan B., our boy, says, Writings on the Wall is a classic behind Crazy Sexy Cool. I'm not sure what he means by behind it. I mean, I don't know.
It's either with it or it's not.
Do you mean
maybe he's saying that maybe when he's kind of ranking the female groups of the era, that's his number 2.
Oh, man. This is why Shaquille Perry is our boy. Say My Name, the remix.
Woo!
No, that's a good remix. That's
a remix for you, no question.
The Timbaland remix, yes.
Yes, no question. That's a remix.
And as a readers or listeners know, to anybody tuning in right now, Tom hates pop music, so if there's any like level of pop to it, he'll hate it. So don't mind him. I feel like
also if something becomes too popular, I also don't like it.
This is true.
That is definitely true.
No, this is very much an important album. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Destiny's Child album. You know how I feel about the Destiny's Fulfilled album. named it top 5 in my albums of the 2000s. But
we remember that fiasco.
Yeah, that was something. But no, this is an important album, and we'll leave it at that. A couple more females that dropped albums here. Let's go with the groups TLC, FanMail, who some people on Twitter, and I hate using Twitter as a source, but we have to because apparently it is the culture. But people on Twitter claim that this is better than CrazySexyCool.
Oh,
that just shows me that you just heard that one before you heard CrazySexyCool. I figured out a thing about Twitter. Twitter latches on to the first thing they hear, and it's like, this is the greatest ever. And whatever comes after it is weird. That's why there's been this weird narrative, Tom, that Jay-Z's debut, almost blanked on it. Reasonable Doubt. Yeah. Even one of the best records ever. Oh, it's just okay. Nas is Illmatic. Oh, it's just okay. Because the first album I heard was Illmatic. So a lot of people latch on to what they hear first. And then they have opinions and they're like, okay, this is mine. And that's cool. But to say it's better, absolutely not. I love FanMail. I think it's really good. But to say it's better than CrazySexyCool, can't ride with you on that one, homie.
Well, Kyle, what was your opinion? I remember there being 2 huge singles, No Scrubs and Unpretty. Yeah. I don't really, and I wasn't someone who was a big TLC fan at the time, so I didn't check it out thoroughly, but is it that great of an album front to back, Kyle?
If you're going to ask me, I'm going to, and I'm from that generation. That's that same generation that thinks Full Moon is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I enjoy this album, but I don't love it. I can't even really call it. I think in terms of impact and culturally and sales, you can probably call it a classic. But if you're talking material, I think I like CrazySexyCool a lot more. There are some great songs on this album, but there's also some filler. So
yeah,
I don't know. I like it. Yeah.
I'm with you. Like, I like it a lot, but I don't think that it comes to, even if we want to talk about just impact, the impact isn't there. The overall quality isn't there. Calling it a classic is a little borderline. I guess you can I would say that No Scrubs is a classic.
Yeah.
Unpretty, maybe, but overall body of work, I don't know about that. But I still like it. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. But CrazySexyCool had Waterfalls, it had Digging on You, it had Red Light Special, and Creep. I mean, those 4 songs to me are better than anything I heard on this TLC album, FanMail. So, I mean, how could you even, like, that right there to me shuts the argument down. I don't know.
No, I'm with you. But again, if this is your entry point into TLC, perhaps you say that this is the album that resonates with me more, or it does sound a little bit more modern than CrazySexyCool, which does sound very 90s R&B. If that's not where you're from, then okay, maybe you'll graduate toward the other one.
Yeah. Let's go with one more group here. 702, their second album. Where My Girls At? Man, I felt like there were so many female anthems during that time. Where My Girls At? You had No Scrubs by TLC. You got the Bills song by Destiny's Child. 702, Gotta Leave. That's a great song. And to me, and again, these same rabid fans that love Full Moon and love FanMail also seem to love 702's third album a lot too. But I feel like 702's second album is better than that third album.
Oh, no question. Like, to me, there's no debate. If you want to debate the first and second, that's something else. Second and third, no. I like this album a lot. I will say that I was not a big fan of Where My Girls At. Maybe because I'm not a girl, so I don't know where they're at. But otherwise, the rest of the album was really, really good. And I think they had some singles, some guaranteed singles that could have done better than, and I like Gotta Leave, but I feel like it didn't get the push besides the big single that it deserved. There was some other gems up there that could have gotten some love.
There was a couple gems. You'll Just Never Know was one I liked.
That's a great song.
That was my song.
And Make Time is another one I liked.
Oh, yes.
Those 2.
Fantastic. And a very cohesive album. It had that like Timbaland double stuttering sound that was really popular at that time, but they made it work.
Side note, but in recent years, I think I've moved to consider their debut a classic, but that's another debate for when we get to that year. I love their debut.
I love it. I don't know if I would call it a classic.
It's debatable. It's debatable.
It's for sure one of my favorite albums ever. I will go on record saying that. Though.
Wow.
Yep. Love it. Yeah. We'll get to that in 96.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually had something to say, but we're going to move on. Let's
right.
talk about two of the greatest female artists of our time. They dropped albums this year. Let's start with Mary J. Blige, the Mary album. Now, guys, I think it's a general consensus between the three of us that her first three albums are classics. But this one, the sound is a little different. She's a little happier on this album.
Oh, God.
Maybe just a little. Is this album a classic, the Mary album?
Let me give a little bit of background real quick into this album, because I can speak from, I was like 19 or so. I was reading Vibe. I was listening to all the interviews. I knew what was going on. Internally, there was a lot of pushback for this album because, as you mentioned, this sounded nothing like classic Mary. She wanted to go in a different direction, a more classic soul direction, as opposed to the more hip-hop soul direction that she had been doing. I thought it was a wise move because you can only ride that bicycle so much. So it was okay to do something else. So the sound was different and jarring. When we first heard it, it was kind of like, oh, okay, Mary, this sounds a little different. But it worked. And I think because her fan base was maturing, that they were able to kind of resonate with what she was saying. Because, you can't be miserable all your life. Like, okay, it's okay to be happy, y'all. It's okay to find love. And that's what she was doing here. So there is a specific portion of her fan base that considers this her best album. I don't think it is. I don't quite consider it a classic, but I do respect what she did. And it is one of the better albums in her discography.
I'm reading about who considers it a classic and who doesn't. But man, I'm the one in this group that considers it a classic. All that I can say, that song never gets celebrated among Mary's best. I love that song. When that bass line comes in, whew, man, that's a jam. You got Deep Inside, which was a huge hit. I remember hearing that everywhere. You have, I could not relate to this song in any capacity, but Your Child and the remix with Ghostface, man.
Oh, Your Child. I love Your Child. What a well-written song.
She had this song, Sincerity, with DMX and Nas. Wow. That song I love.
And there's some other ones. I think that made the album, did it? But
it was like a bonus cut.
Well, I got the MP3. Shout out to LimeWire. So I got that back in the day. But I love Sincerity, and it was just so dark, and it was more the Mary we knew. So I was kind of disappointed when it wasn't on the album, but I get why it wasn't, because it doesn't really fit.
But yeah, her four first albums, to me, it's tough to find anyone else to compare to it with their first four albums. It's just, we may never see it again. So I always love to celebrate these.
Yeah, that was a great forerun there. Let's talk about Mariah Carey, Ed. I'm on soulandstereo.com and I'm checking out the Rainbow rankings. And you have Rainbow ranked at number 8 in her discography.
Yeah, Rainbow is kind of in the middle, sliding toward the back a little bit, if you want to put it there. And a lot of hardcore, well, some of the hardcore Mariah fans think every album is number 1. So you got to be careful what you're saying there. But a lot of the ones who are in the cypher on Facebook who discuss this album, even they say that they like this a little less than I do. I think it's an okay album. If you were around MTV at the time, they promoted the heck out of this album. Heartbreaker was everywhere. And it has some good songs, but it also, to me, it was the first Mariah album that was like kind of in the middle. So it's not her best, but it definitely has some memorable songs on it.
Tom, let me ask you this. Which version of Heartbreaker is better, the one with Jay-Z or the remix with Brat and Missy?
I just remember the version with Jay-Z being played all the time. I love how I never really get asked about the Mariah albums. It's like you guys already knew I didn't listen to them.
We were trying to put you on the spot. That's what it
was. And then, of course, Joe and 98 Degrees on Thank God I Found You. That was a huge hit, too.
Yeah.
Was that a little too poppy for you, Tom?
Was that a little too sampley of King Keith or what?
Well, that's the remix.
Oh, we're talking about the original?
Yeah.
The original I don't even remember, to be honest.
All right, then.
What was the remix to?
That out on our top 40 station out in VA.
Was the remix too sample heavy for you, Ed? Did we borrow too much from your boy?
Well, I actually liked it because it was just enough to tribute without coming off as straight up biting. So I liked it.
Hold on. Shaquille Perry's asking, why didn't I listen to Mariah? All right, check this out. I was 16 years old,
Mhm.
right? You can't just, I wasn't an R&B fanatic back then. I wasn't just listening to everyone. I remember back in 99, you had to buy an album to listen to it. So it wasn't like I could just stream everything. So I was making responsible purchases of what I thought I would like. That's why I was going with Eric Benet.
He was buying murder music and he was buying Memphis Bleak.
Yes,
those
we
were the
talked
responsible
offline.
choices he was making.
I was into hip hop back then too. So I was buying, like he said, Memphis Bleak, Mobb Deep. I had Donell, I had Eric Benet. I wasn't listening to too many female R&B back then. So sorry, guys.
Well, I'll exclude you from this conversation, Ed. This is between you and me. Can we talk about Shantae Moore? This moment is mine. Is that Shantae Got a Man song toxic? Since we talk about toxic songs,
is it toxic? Shantae, listen, I love Shantae. Shout out to Shantae. We've had her on the podcast. She is a gem and one of the most underrated vocalists ever. And she tried to defend this song, but Shantae, what kind of friend? If I go to you guys, I'm like, Tom, Kyle, I am having this terrible relationship. The stuff is going down. And you say, well, guess what? I got a wonderful woman. And she is the best thing ever. Hold on. I'm going to leave this conversation because she's calling me right now. So I'm just going to leave in the middle of our conversation. Shantae, you a terrible friend.
And then she had the record "If I Got Love," which then turned into, or "If I Gave Love," which turned into the Jennifer Lopez record that came out that year too. If you had,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And that's our first J-Lo shout out of the day. She did drop her debut this year as well. I'm just looking at the comments to see if any slander happens. No slander yet.
Well, shout out to Derry. He's already getting into the J-Lo stealing song stuff. So here we go.
Ed, what about Shanice, her self-titled?
Man, this album, again, is somewhere over in my gigantic stack. That's one of the ones that I break out every once in a while because it just doesn't get the love it deserves. Again, look at 99 and how competitive the landscape was. We already mentioned Mary and Mariah and TLC, and then we had the up-and-comers like 702. So there was so much stuff going on that there were so many hidden gems, and this is one of them. I still spin this one every so often.
And I also have to go give a quick shout out here, Tom, to Tracy Spencer, who we have not heard from in a long time. But she had an album this year, and she had a huge hit on that album.
Have we found her yet?
We have not.
Man, some people just don't want to be found.
I thought that was Shaquille Perry's job to find Tracy Spencer.
Shaquille, we'll find out later on that one. Don't worry.
My God.
Can I give a quick shout out before I forget? I'm going to forget this, so I got to bring it up. Don't forget, soundtracks were still big at the time. We had this song in 99, The Best Man I Can Be, Kyle. Do you remember that one?
Oh, my gracious, yes.
What Can a Brother Do for Me?
Yo, you can't make a song like that in 2020.
No, you can't. You can't.
Wow. Shout out to Ginuwine, RL, Tyrese, and Case on that one.
Man, I miss the days of where we could just have 4 top-tier male artists get together and put out a record like that. I mean, I know we had Secret Garden, kind of the remake this year, which I love, by the way. Mm-hmm. But this just seems few and far between those type of collabos.
Yep. And before we get into our rookies here, because we do have quite a bit, I don't know, are we counting Immature IMX as a rookie?
No.
They changed their name?
No. No, but I do like this album. I do appreciate this album. So I'll give them props there, but no, they're not rookies.
So there you go.
Far from it.
Can we get into the rookies here?
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
And let me just say this. There are going to be some albums that I missed out on just because we didn't have enough time to put this together. So I'm going to name the ones that I have on this collage and then some. But So we have Coco from SWV's debut. Tom, I know you love the song Sunshine. Can we talk about Sunshine really quickly?
Man, love that song. That's your boy Darkchild, right?
That is Darkchild, yep.
I love to see her step out as a solo artist. She was so ready. Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
And I just want to give a huge shout out for this album. I love this album in 99. I thought it was super underrated. She's got this joint called Trying to Come Home. I've played that song to death to this day. I thought this was her launching pad. I was like, okay, Coco's about to blow up. I thought this was what we saw with Sisqo was going to be with her. And didn't quite work out, but I love this album nonetheless.
I guarantee it was label politics why it didn't work out. I guarantee, but we'll find out.
The quality was all over it.
Mm-hmm. Angie Stone, Black Diamond. A lot of people actually love this album. So I want to see it in the comments here too, because I saw a lot of people praising it on our comments earlier in the week. We have Black's debut. We're gonna have to ask JC Chazé about his baggy jeans.
Oh my gosh.
We have
His thug
Khalees.
appeal.
Oh yes, we have Khalees's debut, which to this day I think still sounds like nothing that's come out. It's like
ahead of time.
it's still way ahead of its time.
Ed, I think we're going to need to commit her to therapy when we talk about our first single called Out There. I mean, what advice would you give to her?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to tell her to just take a breath. Take a breath first of all, because there was a lot going on. And I remember, the ladies at the time were resonating with this song, and everybody was screaming, and they were screaming along with her. I'm like, this ain't healthy, y'all. Don't do this.
Yeah.
We have Kevon Edmonds, who has
Kyle's boy. I mean,
Tom's boy. That's a conspiracy.
Kyle was 9. He don't know.
But this honestly is, and here's the thing: just because an album is not celebrated enough doesn't make it a classic. DJ Soul Child, it can be an R&B gem. It doesn't have to be a classic.
Oh my!
Boy.
Here we go.
We're gonna hear from about this.
This album right here is a gem. What a gem here! Great album.
You know what I'd say about this album, front to back? I love it. It's just like classy love music. It's not like all trying to be bumping and grinding and slick or smooth. It's like real classic love songs, front to back. And I mean, to me, that's respectable because everyone can't relate to everything. But this is an album anyone can relate to who's been in love. So that's what makes it special to me. Shout out to Kevon Edmonds.
Yeah, and that's why I still revisit that wall back there behind me so often, because that's the type of music you don't hear. And it's not so much about, oh, you want to go back to the 90s. It's I miss a type of writing and storytelling that is not prevalent in today's music. It has nothing to do with your little ragged trap beats. You can have that all you want. But the point is, the storytelling and the writing that I miss is not here. And sometimes a brother just wants to hear some love song. It's okay to be in love, y'all. And he gives that to us when everybody else writing about shooting their man in the face.
There's a comment from LaFace era. Why didn't Kevon Edmonds become huge? I mean, he was part of After 7. I think by the time he put this album out, he was a little bit older.
Yeah.
And it didn't do too well commercially. Probably, again, label politics. But I don't know. It didn't work out for him. And then he has another solo album, and he has the last After 7 album was really good too, but that's another story.
Yeah. Dave Hollister dropped his debut coming off of Blackstreet. He drops his debut.
Oh man, my God.
And we'll talk about Sisqo in a bit here, but Ed, I'm gonna go into the time machine and name some male groups that you may have forgotten.
Okay, see what I got. I probably have the albums behind me, but let's go.
What do you know about Profile?
Oh, what do I know about Profile, you liar? I know a lot about Profile. And this is another group. I feel like that I'm going to say this a lot on this podcast because it felt like in the 90s going into the next couple years, in 99, 2000, 2001, other than the big groups, the 112s, the J's, the Drews, it felt like the second tier groups never caught on like we thought. And Profile was a group that I just thought, with another group that I'm sure you'll be naming soon, that I thought would be like, okay, these dudes are going to be next to step up. It just didn't happen, and I'm not really sure why, because they had the potential, and they even had the hits.
Men of Vision.
My dogs, Men of Vision, yeah. I love Men of Vision.
Wow.
No Question?
I don't know about No Question. I know the Allure song, No Question.
No, not that song. What about Imagine? Imagine had a huge record.
What was Imagine's record?
It was spelled differently.
Ed.
Imagine was spelled IMAJIN or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I remember. I can see that title. They had to spell it out phonetically. Okay, I can see the title.
Oh, okay.
They were no Men of Vision. Let's get back to them, because them housekeeping brothers. I love them.
Hold on, fun fact, Kyle. Wasn't Liar by Profile one of B. Cox's earlier hits?
Yep.
It was.
I remember that.
And then another group that B. Cox worked with early on is Ideal. Get Gone. Creepin'. Some hits.
Whatever.
There.
Like that's
whatever.
This was the group. I love Whatever, and I still rock it today. They along with Profile, I thought were next up. I thought that they were the ones that were going to be next going into the 2000s, and they were going to keep the spirit of the male group strong. And unfortunately, this is where we started to see the cracks in the foundation. We didn't know it then, but looking back, just like a lot of lost opportunity.
And shout out to RL from Next, our boy. He co-wrote Whatever.
He's all over that. You can just feel the spirit of Next on that one.
Oh yes. Third Story was supposed to drop their album that year too, but it never came out. Remember Third Story, you guys?
Oh, yes. I remember Third Story, yeah.
Calvin Richardson, Country Boy, that came out that year. We love Calvin. And
for some reason has become my boy, but yes, Calvin Richardson.
Come on. We love Calvin. And lastly, we have to talk about Sisqo's debut. After Dru Hill's second album, Woody leaves, Sisqo goes solo, drops this album, Incompletes on this album, songs on this album. And this album in its entirety, like, people love this album.
Let me tell you about this album. And I am all hate. Well, see, that's the good thing about being here on IG. You can just click my profile and see the DM hate right there, because that way I saved you a step. So you can send me the hate mail quicker, that I will ignore, by the way. But when we talk about albums that define an era, I'm talking about this one. Y'all love talking about an album with no skips, which almost does not exist. Almost every album has a skip. This, to me, might be my no skip album. I love this one front to back. And to me, this is the album that should have made him the megastar. And it almost did. So we got to 2001, but we talked about that already. Go in the archives and listen to that podcast. But this album set him apart. He was able to carry on the Dru Hill legacy, do something completely new, and drop a solo album that met every bit of expectation that was there. Not just on the pop side when it comes to performance and awareness and having a big hit, but the album cuts that were just incredible. Album cuts that could have been singles all on their own. One of my favorite albums for sure.
Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a non-skip album, if you're asking my opinion, but I think it's a very good album. I remember how huge he was at the time. And listen, guys, he still gets booked for solo shows just based off this album.
Yeah,
even with all the success of Dru Hill. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, Tom, let me ask you: Is Thong Song one of the songs that you skip?
I thought it was cool at the time, just sonically, but I can't listen to that song anymore, guys. It's just gimmicky.
I'm actually with you. Like, at this point, I'm kind of tired of it, so I'll skip it. But in '99, I was all them thongs were getting shaken in Virginia Beach. So no, I was not skipping it in '99 or 2000. But I was kind of tired of it now. But yeah, I mean, the chat is just hitting me up with the so sexual and how can I love you tonight? Yes, these are the album cuts I'm talking about. Y'all are smart. I love y'all because y'all smart.
I'm saying those are the ones I skip, actually.
No.
How can I love you tonight?
Oh my gosh.
Tom.
Turn his mic off.
Oh man.
I will say one thing. I thought it was cool because we didn't know Sisqo if he was going to leave Dru Hill forever, what was going to happen. I thought it was cool he at least had 2 Dru Hill songs on the end of the album to represent.
Yeah, I like that too. And we very much appreciated that.
And we can't forget about the song Addicted.
I love that song, guys.
Yeah, that's a great song.
That's another one.
Yeah. Isn't Ja Rule on this album?
On the
you
remix.
Would point that out.
Yeah, I just realized that.
I like that version of You Are Everything. I like it.
I do too. It's completely different, but again, no skips from me. I love it.
Shout out to our boy Nokia, who's on that one rapping.
Yep. So that covers the rookies. We may have missed a couple, and my apologies.
Can I throw one out that we missed? I want to shout out Mark Nelson.
Yes.
Only because I'll be interviewing him tomorrow, actually, on Instagram Live. You guys can join me for that at 8.
Yeah.
His single 15 minutes, you guys might remember that one. We'll talk all about that tomorrow.
So before we decide who the rookie of the year was that year, I'm going to give a quick shout out here to King Dave Young. He said, "I love you guys. I'm new, but I'm down." So welcome.
I'm glad
to the club.
you down, homie.
That's dope.
So let's get into the rookie of the year here. A lot of great rookies. Who do you guys have?
I feel like it might be unanimous on this one, guys.
Yeah.
Who counts as okay? You go before I jump in.
I gotta go with Men of Vision.
Oh my gosh,
that's who we're going with.
I might go with that. I might go.
I actually
anyway.
just first heard of Menavision today on this podcast.
Oh my! What, you player, you have not heard of Housekeeper? Google Housekeeper when we finish this.
Listen,
and get
Ed,
your life.
I told you before this podcast. I told you in '99 I was listening to songs like the Hot Boys, Guerrilla Warfare.
Yeah.
And now that I'm checking my iTunes, I was listening to LL Cool J, Deepest Bluest from the Deep Blue Sea soundtrack too, guys. That was
I was listening to that too, along with Housekeeper. So I'm with you halfway there.
Anyway, Ed, give us your pick.
Oh man, everybody I keep thinking of, honestly, is not even a rookie. So come back to me, Kyle, because I think Sisqo is a cheat for a rookie, so I don't want to use him.
Well, if Sisqo's a cheat, then Kevon Edmonds also a cheat.
Oh, what are we left with here?
So we're left with, and Coco's a cheat too. Then.
Oh my! Can you give us the list?
So so it'll be Angie Stone, Black, Khalees, Menavision, Profile.
Oh. Gotcha.
Ideal and Dave. Well, Dave Hollister, I guess, is also a cheat.
Yeah, he would be if we're counting them as cheats.
I guess
I would go with. Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
I guess Black to me wins by default. Boom Like an 808 and Bring It All to Me. Those were both huge hits.
They were, but the album to me was a little hit or miss though. But besides that, if I was going by 99 and I can't pick Sisqo, I would have gone. I would have bet the house on Khalees, because when you think about the production, it just felt like it was next level. You had Neptunes on her side who were really about to explode. And it's hard to describe if you weren't part of that era, because we see so many artists today kind of doing this style and speaking from the place of a woman. And, you know, especially as a Black woman, we've been taught that, like, you can't be loud, you can't be the angry Black woman. And she was embracing that. So Khalees was one of the first in that era to kind of take that and run with it. It really sounded like she was setting up a huge career going forward. And she did definitely have success. I'm not saying that she didn't, clearly. But if I was in 99, she would have had to be my pick.
I'm going the same direction. You know, I was a Neptune stan.
Oh, man.
And that album, production-wise, might be one of my favorites of all time.
It is.
And it's one I still have in heavy rotation to this day. So I love it. It still sounds fresh to me today, which is super rare. And Khalees is one of my favorites, so I got to go with Kaleidoscope.
Yeah. See, I'm going with Black here, not only because of the two hits, but they have a song on there that I would call a classic, just based off of numbers alone. You guys don't even know this song, but I just checked out the stats on YouTube. It has more views than any of Khalees' songs on that album. When the Last Teardrop Falls, my guy Lawrence will know this song. That is the saddest song of all time.
I do not remember this song at all. I'm going to check it out. While Tom is checking out Housekeeper, I'll be checking this out.
It has 22 million views.
That's
incredible.
Crazy.
Anyways.
Random side note, if someone just sits in their house and leaves YouTube repeating forever, how many hits could you rack up on a song?
I ask Cousin Chris's fans, because that's sure what they do. Nicki Minaj stands the same way. That's how they get it done.
Oh, man. All right. I think it's that time, Kyle. We got to bring in our special guest.
Well, before we do that, I actually just forgot about an album, and I have to thank Samuel Christian for bringing this on. And this will be new. Our guy, Ginuwine, 100%.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I don't know how I forgot about that. Ed, didn't you just listen to this album last year?
Well, I think it was, I don't know if it was last year or earlier before, because, you know, this year has been a freaking time warp.
That is true.
But yes, this album is probably, when you talk about the Ginuwine album, most people run to 100%. Yeah. And it's like the defining Ginuwine album. I personally like The Life more, but if we're arguing about better, yes.
What?
I like The Life more. But if
this is going to be another one of those.
Listen, somebody got to bring you facts. So when we're talking about more defining and one that's kind of a career achievement, we got to go with this one. To me, it's his best.
Listen, Kyle, me and Ed now have Alicia Keys, we have John Legend, and now we have Ginuwine. Of the three, we heavily disagree on.
What we need to do is show the screenshots of that conversation we had yesterday about Keisha Cole versus Ashanti.
Oh my goodness.
That's what we need to do.
We should. Yes, we should, because somebody said that Ashanti had a 5-star album, and I'm not going to give that away and destroy their credibility on this wonderful podcast.
We'll talk about
on me.
All right, well, let's do our top 5 lists here, and we're going to bring in a special guest.
Yes, we are.
I think Shaquille Perry, who has had
Shaquille Perry
3 shots. He will be joining us. So
he's at work. He is in the janitor's room, logged in to join us right now.
So Shaquille, I think we just sent you the Zoom invite. And guys, we're going to be doing that more often. We'll have you guys on here if you guys are not camera shy, and you guys will be able to join us for these conversations. Shaquille, I hope you are not drunk as we go through this list. And
while we're waiting for Shaquille, can I shout out a song that was another song on the soundtrack?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 5-star classic for me. Get Involved by Raphael Sadiq and Q-Tip. Man.
I don't think you will get too much argument there. Yes.
Love that one.
So as we're going through this top 5 list, I want to hear from you guys and see what your guys' top 5 is. I actually have to start preparing mine. I didn't do that.
Isn't it top 3?
Is it top 3?
I thought it was 3. I mean, we can do 5, but
it was 5.
It was 3. No, it was 3.
It was 3?
Yeah.
3.
Kyle, send him the link again.
No, I see him. I see him.
Okay.
So it'll be your top 3. I could have sworn it was 5.
It was never 5.
3.
Oh, okay. Well,
was it 3? Was it?
Shaquille! Was 3.
Yes, sir.
What's up, man?
What's up?
Thanks for joining us.
How many drinks?
I don't drink.
All right.
I'm always sober. Only water.
What's up, man?
Only water.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in every week and supporting us. We appreciate it.
No problem.
So, Shaquille, you know how this goes. It's going to be your favorite 3 albums of 1999. I could have sworn it was 5, but maybe it is 3. But before we do that,
3.
I got to know this versus battle, Ashanti or Keisha Cole?
Oh, that's easily Keisha.
All right, you're going
last.
You're going last. All right, Tom.
Once she plays last night, it's over. Once she plays last night.
Oh, my goodness.
Wait, how old are you
again? There was a reason why I knew I liked the cut of this Giants jib.
I'm telling you.
All right.
What do you like? You're like 22. How old are you?
Yeah, 22. More than 98.
Are you really?
Yep.
No wonder he has no idea about Ashanti.
Wait,
no.
Are you qualified
Ashanti should be his queen if he was born in 98, right. But he has a better queen in Keisha. I'm here for it.
Are you even qualified to do this countdown?
Of course, an R&B historian.
All right.
See?
Wow. All right.
All right. Our favorite 3 R&B albums of 1999. Tom, you'll go first. What is your number 3?
Oof, I should have done better research, but I'm going to go with Donell Jones, Where I Want to Be. Like I said earlier, a classic for me. My favorite Donell album, one of my favorite albums of all time. So that's up there for me.
Ed?
Donell was my honorable mention. He was my number, 4. But my number 3 would have to be those DC girls.
Wait, you don't have Donell in your top 3?
Nope, he's number 4. I'm going with DC for number 3.
Wait,
look, it's 99?
Destiny's Child. Didn't we agree they were a pop group? That doesn't even count.
Well, that's what you agreed on. I never agreed with you.
Oh, my goodness.
When we talk about 99, there's just too much competition. I could have done a list of 25 albums.
Listen,
I might do that on the
someone who was a baby in 99 knows better. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
Well, but he was a baby.
Before we agree on that, Shaquille, what is your number 3?
Gotta go with Sisqo and Leaf the Dragon.
There we go. All right.
What do you like about that album?
How Can I Love You? Not How Can I Love You. What's the song before How Can I Love You Tonight? The second track. And then you got the interlude before How Can I Love You Tonight? And then Addicted, of course, So Sexual. I don't like Thong Song, I'm just be honest.
Let me ask you
You had to be there, trust me. You had to be on the beach with me.
What year did you hear this album?
All these albums I know I've heard since probably like past 5 years. Like 5 years of digging.
Wow.
Yeah. Since 17. Is Love Enough? That's what it's called, the second one.
Yes, Is Love Enough? Yes, we did not shout that one out. Yes.
All right. My number 3 would have to be, I'm going to go with Sisqo as well, Unleash the Dragon. Great album from top to bottom. Number 2, Tom.
Oh, man. I'm probably going to have to go with 100% Ginuwine, to be honest. That's one I find myself going back to more and more. So for me, I'm not saying it's a no-skip album. I actually wish that one was a little shorter, if I had my
Mhm.
opinion, but I love a lot of the songs in there, so I'm going to go with that one. And, yeah, Ginuwine can't go wrong.
Ed?
Ginuwine would have been another one of my honorable mentions, but for the reason Tom mentioned, kind of comes down a little bit further, especially to my number 2, my boys, Silk, Tonight. One of my favorites ever.
For myself, my number 2 would have to be, if you had asked me like when these albums did come out, I would probably go with Donell. But man, I've just been listening to that Khalees album heavy.
When you were 9, you would go with Donell.
Oh yeah, I definitely could relate to where I want to be. No,
Wow.
but over the last couple of months, I've been really playing that Khalees album heavy. Still ahead of its time. Like the song "Suspended," which I didn't even like before. I love that song now. It's so weird and creepy, but amazing one. So I'm gonna go with Khalees as my number 2. Shaquille?
Definitely Donnell's number 2. This Love, All Her Love. What's the other record? Of course, Where I Want to Be. Think About It, because the way that interlude is at the end. I Want to Love You. Only like one skip. The only bad song in there to me is I Don't Like Pushing.
Yeah, that one didn't really fit, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It didn't.
I don't even remember Pushing, so clearly it did not stick.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're down to our number 1. Tom, how much time do we have left?
We have a few minutes only.
All right, let's hurry this up then. Number 1, Tom.
So the ones that just missed were Case, Chico, DeBarge, Eric Benet, Kevon Edmonds, Mary J, and Sisqo. So my number 1 is Khalees. I mean, I just love that album, guys. Groundbreaking, still sounds fresh. Love it.
Great pick. Ed?
Number 1 to me should be no surprise because I haven't said it yet, and all y'all have said it. My man Sisqo. Number 1.
I'm gonna go with Ginuwine as my number 1. I love those interludes that he put on the album too. Like those were actual songs that he didn't finish, but go back and listen to those ones. Those are some gems. Shaquille, number 1.
My number 1 has got to be the album with the best production, with the best writing by Static and Tim. Easily 100% Ginuwine.
Wow.
So Anxious.
Wow. My guy.
What's So Different. Final Warning with Aaliyah, who's obviously you guys been disrespecting her. We'll talk about another day. None of Your Friends'
That's
Business.
another day.
Same OG All Night. There's only about 2 or 3 skips on there.
I'll be honest. I don't like What's So Different. I like the Godzilla sample.
Oh, I love it.
I do not like that. It was the first single. I was like, ooh, gee, I ain't feeling it.
No, I know Tom doesn't like I Know. I don't know how he doesn't like I Know. That's a great song.
No, that's me.
That song. What are you talking about?
That's me. I don't like I Know.
Okay, yeah. Somebody said they didn't like I Know. That's a great
song. It feels like filler material.
I'm just a bit in shock that we're speaking to someone this young and has this much appreciation for, I hate to use the term real R&B, but when it was a different type of R&B music, you know, and I have much respect for that, man.
No, I appreciate it. Been digging 5 years of digging.
There you go.
Did you get tired of listening to these new artists? Like, is that what happened?
No. I don't know. I used to like Miguel a lot. And then, I don't know, that just led to me listening to the 90s. And then after that, it was over.
Nice.
Well, I'll take that over Bryson Tiller and Summer. So
average.
Well, guys, I think we're out of time here. Shaquille, I appreciate you for joining us on this.
No problem.
Thanks for
have
stopping
to
by,
on
this.
Okay.
Wow.
When we get to 96.
That's so dope.
Do you even know what a vinyl is?
To my birthday. Ironically.
That's dope.
Yeah. Ed, what's going on with soulandstereo.com?
I need all my John B fans to stop by soulandstereo.com. I have finally listened to the audience, have ranked his entire discography from bottom to top. Check that out at Soul and Stereo. And because we're at the end of the year, my top 50 albums of the year coming up. We had a poll of favorite Christmas songs. We're going to have a ranking of that coming up. Player, y'all submitted 350 Christmas songs. It's going to take me a year to go through them. But I'm going to do it for you, and I'm going to rank your best picks for your top Christmas songs. That'll be coming up real soon.
Tom, you know I got soul.
We also did a John B feature. We did his top 10 best songs and a whole bunch of honorable mentions. We've been doing a lot more interviews. We just talked to Maya. We talked to Karen White. Those are on the site now. Shep Crawford, who you talked to, Kyle, will be on the site soon, the producer who just retired, and just keeping it going.
And Shaquille, are you still employed?
Nah. Well,
Oh my God.
that's funny,
Player, don't lose your job for SoulBack.
No. In all seriousness, no. I start a police academy next week though, so
Nice,
tomorrow's my
man.
last day eating my job. So yeah.
All right. Well, do us a
that's what's up.
favor. If you catch
Yeah.
any R&B artists singing with autotune, arrest them immediately.
Oh, I got you. Don't worry, that's gonna happen anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
So
My
I think
God.
that's it for this week. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Shaquille, thank you again for joining
Yeah,
us.
we'll have you back,
Appreciate the
Shaquille, man.
invite.
This was
We'll
fun.
have you back. And
That was definitely fun.
everyone, be safe. Have a good night. And we'll see you again next week to talk about 1998.
All right.